This is just to the south of 94 in southern Warren County. I've zoomed in really tight. I'll zoom out and show you the big picture in a second. First things first, I want to give folks who are in the immediate path of this tornado a heads up on exactly where it is. Headed to the south into New Haven in about 5 minutes, into around 100 and in northern Franklin County in just about 8 minutes or so. I'm going to switch back over to the debris tracker to see, well, it flared up again. So let me go back in time. This just helps me. Yeah, there it is right there. That dot right there is debris in the air. This is 11:38, so it's 11:43, so that was about 5 minutes ago. As it continues its trek farther to the south, there it is right there, still showing that signature, a little weaker, but still showing debris in the air. What that is Doppler radar pinging off of objects in the air, and it notices that they're not all the same. They're not all raindrops. Something else is in the air. It could be leaves, shingles, tree branches, but a tornado has flung that up into the air, and there it is right now, just on the east side of New Haven. So New Haven still needs you in the basement, in your tornado shelter. If you don't have a basement, you're looking for an interior room where you're putting yourself on the lowest level in the interior part of the home or apartment complex. So you're putting as many walls between you and the outside. Stay away from windows. This is showing that there's debris flying through the air. Radar confirmed tornado that has gone from southern Warren County and now crossing into New Haven and northern Franklin County, and it's about to cross 100 here pretty shortly. Going to zoom. Yes, please go ahead, Kent.
I'm on. If they can hear me back in the control room, I am on number 6. Weather Service is saying the rotating sections have decreased in intensity, which is expected when there's a collision of two boundaries, one coming from the north colliding with the other one to the south. Pretty strong elevated winds with it. They expect this to be a temporary phenomenon associated with this collision. They're going to keep an eye on that area, but obviously it's still an active warning.
Let me explain exactly what Kent's saying, what we're on the instant message chat with our friends at the National Weather Service. This green represents raindrops that are coming at the radar. The red represents raindrops going away. So what this really is two areas of wind. One was coming at New Haven from the southwest. The other was going through Warren County, and they collided. And when they collided, they created a little spin, and that spin has created right along the edge here, especially on the east side of town, a little spin up. I noticed a little brief blip right about here too. That's not out of the question that could be a brief small tornado too. But the one that is has shown some debris on the debris tracker is actually in the east side of town in New Haven. I'm going to slow this down for you. What we're looking at in these Christmas colors, the red and the green, is the not only speed but direction of the winds. This is at 11:34, and it's clear as day right there. You've got two areas of rotation. So there actually could have been another one, and it's weakening, but it would be southwest of Marthasville. I need anyone in that area too, in southern Warren County going into northern Franklin County, to be inside away from windows down the basement. Once again, I just want to point out the time. This is about 10 minutes ago, 11 minutes ago. I just want to show you how it was pretty intense, and then it's weakened a little bit. And that's what Kent was saying, that, hey, when these boundaries collide, they can create that spin up. And then all of a sudden, the spin tends to weaken and fade away. Don't think that's necessarily the case right here. That still looks like a potential for tornado. And then the one on the east side of town in New Haven does look a little weaker. It does look like this bright pink and red you see here. You're going to get some strong winds. So if there's a little spin and potential tornado, it would be on the east side of town right here. And then on top of that, a broader area here is going to get some strong straight line winds, and maybe another little spin up here. This is just north of and northwest of Dundee. And as that slides to the south and east, that's going to cross the river pretty much and go into northern Franklin County in just a matter of minutes. And that would be right around, that's 185 right there, and that's Highway 100. So there's two areas. Let me zoom out a little bit, give you the bigger picture here. So there's St. Louis. We're dealing with rain, thunderstorms for sure, some strong winds here too, where you see some of the brighter green. But this is the area where the tornado threat is, and there's actually two, one right here and one right here, that we have to watch for potential of a tornado. And I say potential now because the signature has weakened a little bit, so it may not necessarily be on the ground, but I still see a signature, and that box there represents the tornado warning. So if you're in Warrenton, in Warren County, It's really an extreme southern part of Warren County. We also heard, Kent, will you hop on chat? Didn't we hear there was a malfunction in the sirens in Warren County before this came out, right?
Yeah. So somebody must have seen it and the communication lines were broken down a little bit or something.
Maybe. On chat, we heard there was a malfunction. We're not sure if that was a malfunction or someone saw it and actually did flip the switch before there was an actual warning. Either way, let me be clear here. If you're around Warrenton and Innsbrook, you are not threatened by the rotation. This is extreme southern Warren County coming into northern Franklin County. So if you did hear sirens in Warrenton or in Innsbrook, you're in the clear. It's really south of Marthasville, and I'm going to have to switch over to those Christmas colors, the Doppler winds, so I can pinpoint this. Marthasville in the clear from rotation. There's the rotation, and this much weaker signature, by the way, in New Haven. So if you're in the basement in New Haven, you're doing the right thing. This is weaker. It'll slide south of you, and then hopefully dissipates completely, and we don't see that rotation aspect of the strong winds anymore. But essentially what's happened is the green represents the strong winds that were coming at New Haven, out of Franklin County. The red, even stronger winds coming out of a thunderstorm here in southern Warren County. When they collided along that boundary right there, they created probably 2 spots of rotation, one of which has a signature or had a signature for debris in the air. Let's check in on that debris tracker. We're going to zoom in on that east side of town in New Haven. Definitely not as strong anymore. That's good. There it is there. That was at 11:44, so that was 5 minutes ago. There it is there, just south of Trelore and 94. That was at 11:38, so that was about 10 minutes ago. And that's when it started, 11:36. And that was in southern Warren County, right along 94. So again, that's back in time. Now I'm going to go forward in time and see how it kind of disappears. So that's good news. The debris tracker not showing a tornado debris signature anymore. And the signature on the Doppler winds is weaker around New Haven. This is an updated image too. And so you're New Haven now in the strong winds that were coming out of Warren County. So this is all strong straight line winds. If there's a tornado and it's a much weaker signature, I think it's really falling apart. It's kind of southeast of town now. As far as the other one that was southeast of Marthasville and near Dundee, it's west and southwest of Dundee right there near 100. And that one still has a little bit of a signature. It's not as strong as far as rotation goes. Definitely strong as far as straight line winds go. And this is southern Warren County. This is northern Franklin County. So that's coming right at 185, 100, and Dundee. And didn't see anything on the debris tracker out of that one there. See, nothing there. That's good news. If we saw a little area of yellow or sometimes blue, a little like donut hole, that usually is an indication that you've got some debris in the air. I'm not seeing that. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be inside, away from windows and down the basement. You should. If you're in Dundee or anywhere around there, 100 and 185. If you're in New Haven, stay in the basement a few more minutes. The rotation has not only weakened, but moved south of you, but you are in those strong straight line winds, and I'd rather have you just in a safe spot, not near windows where a tree limb can come through or something like that, just for a few more minutes. That bright pink and red represents some of those strong straight line winds that are coming down out of Warren County and right at you from New Haven to Dundee. Okay, let's back up a little bit, and I've been focusing on the more immediate area that's getting hit. Let's give you an idea downstream on this from right around New Haven over to Dundee and south. And one thing I should point out too, for our friends in Washington, this is all west of you at this point, but boy, you're monitoring it closely, okay? I hope you're watching and keeping an eye on things in case a rotation starts to develop in your area, because you're starting to get that convergent zone. I'll explain what that means in a second, of the 2 boundaries that can help create these areas of rotation, like the one that just north and northeast of New Haven probably did produce at least a brief tornado. There's some of the other cities in the path of the strongest winds here, that boundary. Campbelltown, about 13 minutes, and you see some of the other cities in the path. So I mentioned a convergent zone. What I'm talking about right there is the convergence of 2 areas of wind coming from different directions. The green represents the raindrops coming at the radar like this, and then here's the red, and I think these arrows probably help illustrate it a little better. And so I said, hey, if you're in Washington, you're kind of right along where that convergent zone is. I'm going to stop the radar so I can draw exactly where it is right now. And it's south of New Haven. It's a little curvy, sure, but that's That's the convergent zone, and it's along that zone where the two areas of wind converge that sometimes you can get a little spin. And in this case, this is not a big, bad, long-lasting type of tornado, but it probably produced a brief, isolated tornado in southern Warren County. Maybe it traversed over into Franklin County and right on the east side of New Haven, on top of the fact that you have some strong straight-line winds that probably going to take down some tree branches.
That warning, that tornado warning, into a severe thunderstorm warning now down to the southeast.
Okay, that is, yeah, and it's actually a different section. It's not the convergent zone area I was talking about. That's right along here. This is actually kind of a newer zone, and it looks like a surge on this part of the line. So this is a little bit of a different section of this gigantic area of storms right here from St. Charles all the way back to New Haven. The one in New Haven, I'm guessing they're probably going to allow that tornado warning to expire because that rotation looks weaker and weaker. We're not seeing anything on the debris tracker anymore. But notice, I'm going to stop the loop here. Notice the curvature in the orange and the red here, right there. And then I'm going to switch over to the Doppler winds. I'm sure we're seeing a surge right here. This is coming into St. Louis County at Eureka right now. Damaging straight line winds is going to be the main threat. When we're talking about the severe weather here and we talk about the potential for maybe another spin-up tornado, potential of damaging winds, I also just want to throw into that the layer of threats here, flooding. We know it all morning. We've seen it, but more flooding, areas that haven't flooded already. So please be extra cautious. That's really heavy rain coming into Pacific and Eureka and Wildwood right now. I'm going to switch over to those Doppler winds on that new severe thunderstorm warning, and there it is. These are really strong winds. Yes, you can get a little spin-up tornado. Right now, I think that's the area I'd be watching really closely, just southwest of Eureka. Can we get the meteorologist Leah Hill is here along with meteorologist Kent Earhart. Can we get the Most Sacred Heart Church camera?
Yeah, Eureka is right there on the right.
Thank you. Okay. And of course you can't see much because it's shrouded in the heavy rain, but that's right near 144 and 109. And it looks like we have it pointed just due west. So that's kind of pointed right at what we need to see, but you're not seeing anything. And I think that's an example that we don't want you headed outside to try and see something because you're going to get walloped by straight line winds. That's what all this pink and red is. And maybe a brief, weak tornado. And I hate using that term weak tornado, but even though it's lower end of the scale, they can still do damage. And especially if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, like outside, that can be a big problem. And I think that's an area I just want to keep an eye on. There's another little notch right there to watch closely. But no tornado warnings on this at the moment. Just me pointing out what I see as far as kind of have to monitor future radar scans. But that is a new severe thunderstorm warning. So let's get a track on that. We know it's hitting Grace, Summit, Pacific, Eureka now. Let's get an idea of the speed on this before we start to track it for you. You can notice, by the way, 151,000 people. So we're still monitoring for our friends in New Haven, the tornado threat there, which is weakened substantially. And then we have this new severe thunderstorm warning, 60 mile an hour, maybe even faster winds with 151,000 people in that warning. It's one of the reasons why we continue with our coverage here. This is moving southeast at 35, moving at a different direction. You know, it's not moving south, it's moving southeast. So let's put a track on this. I'm sticking with these Doppler winds because it helps me pinpoint exactly where the strongest winds are. And that gets it into High Ridge in a matter of minutes. Scottsdale, Dittmer, Cedar Hill, all within the next 10 to 12 minutes. If it continues, we're talking Antonia in about 17, Barnard in about 25 as it crosses Jefferson County. So here's St. Louis right here. Strongest winds Pacific to Eureka coming right into Jefferson County, also eastern parts of Franklin County. A different section of the storm compared to what we were tracking with the tornado threat.
And Steve, just to confirm what you were saying earlier is that the Weather Service is monitoring that surge for the same kind of phenomena that we saw north of New Haven there, that potentially you could see a spin up. Right now, it's they expect the winds to continue to increase, and they're watching for any kind of spin.
The two areas of spin I would be watching, there's maybe three, are south of Eureka right here. Here's another one in extreme northwestern Jefferson County. Those are really the two. Along this, I just have to continue to keep an eye. And by spin, it means, yeah, we're noticing a little rotation, but it's not on radar presenting strong enough to warrant a tornado warning at the moment. But we want to give you the first alert. We want to keep you ahead of the storm and just point out what we see and use our expertise to give you a heads up that this isn't just the threat for damaging winds, although that's what's hitting Eureka right now, all the way down to Pacific, Gray Summit. But also the potential on the leading edge of those strong winds, maybe a brief isolated tornado that would be just to the west of High Ridge, although it is moving to the southeast, so it would probably just miss High Ridge to the south and southwest. But it gives you an idea of what we're keeping an eye on. We always want to be honest and transparent, pull that curtain back and tell you, what do I see? What do I see that you need to know about? And those are the two things I'm watching: areas of rotation and a severe thunderstorm that can produce 60+ mile-per-hour winds and do damage, but maybe also in these areas produce a weak brief tornado. I hate using that term weak because lower end tornado is still a significant threat. Let's go back to our friends in New Haven real quickly, because you're probably in the basement wondering what's going on. You're good to come up. You're going to have some strong winds. I still would probably stay away from the windows, but at this point, the rotation, it's gone south of you. It's actually kind of fallen apart completely. And if I switch over to the warnings, you're technically still in the tornado warning, but that rotation has fallen apart as it moves south into deeper into Franklin County. Speaking of which, let's see if you're in Lyon, that rotation has fallen apart. But I think the best thing to do is just be inside, away from windows, and monitor things as we continue to monitor if that threat strengthens. All right, big picture here. You're watching First Alert 4 at noon. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Meteorologist Kent Earhart and Leah Hill are here. We're working this as a team, and we've got two warnings going on. One is a tornado warning where we did see on debris tracker, that means radar seeing debris in the air, looked to be brief, an isolated tornado near New Haven. May have just hit the east side of town, probably did hit just north of town. That warning just got carved out, so it looks like it's now south of New Haven. I mentioned Lyon, be inside, away from windows, and let's monitor this. So that warning continues, and that's part of Franklin County right there, which I'll zoom in a second. Then we have this severe thunderstorm warning, and see all that red right there? That's a little bow echo that's surging and showing the potential for 60+ mile-per-hour winds, and we're also monitoring along the leading edge of that, which I'm highlighting right here for you. The leading edge of these strong winds, anywhere from that red to that leading edge, potential 60, maybe even 70 mile-an-hour winds. We're also monitoring the leading edge for a brief isolated tornado that can possibly spin up. So kind of a lot to keep track of, although I think this tornado warning has kind of decreased in rotation and intensity. I'm going to switch over to the Doppler winds, and we're going to take a closer look at that. And then this is the strongest storm going by far. Yeah, so this warning continues, and I think the reason it continues is because you still have convergence here where you have areas of green that represent these winds flowing right up into these areas of red. These were basically two areas of wind that converged or met, and as soon as they met, they created a little spin. If there is a brief tornado to spin up here, it would be just north of Lyon, right there. I think the best thing is just be inside, away from windows. Let's check the debris tracker, see if that thing has put anything up in the air, at least based on radar. No, those are false readings. You can ignore those. Earlier, right there, that was a tornado debris signature, but that was at 11:35, so we're now up to about noon. I'm going to go forward in time on that. Okay, so if you're in Lyon, still under a tornado warning, just let's monitor this, but I have seen it much weaker. That's the good news. Let's go down. Go ahead.
A new tornado warning is going to be coming very shortly.
Is this for Jefferson County?
It's going to be for Jefferson County.
Is it just southwest of Scottsdale?
To the west of Scottsdale. I think it's going to be populating here any moment now.
Thank you.
But it'll be
right there.
North of, right there.
This is going to cross Highway 30 south of Scottsdale in a matter of minutes. New tornado warning. Thanks to meteorologist Leah Hill for jumping on that. We're in constant touch with emergency managers, National Weather Service, law enforcement, spotters. That's what the chat does to get this information out to you as soon as possible. So this is a new warning that's going to come through here in just a second. And there it is. So this is going to be south of Scottsdale, just north of Cedar Hill. I'm going to get real specific on that, but I just want to give you the big picture. That red box represents the tornado warning. Do you have a speed on that too for me, Leah? And right now it is focused right here. And just a reminder, this is what we were talking about earlier, that all along the leading edge of those real strong straight line winds, which I'm highlighting right here, that area...
50 miles per hour, by the way.
50, okay. That's faster than the line was moving, or the line has sped up because it was 35 earlier. So I'm going to do two tracks here. One, let's focus on the tornado, and the other is the straight line winds here. If you're in Eureka, the winds are probably starting to calm down. I think the worst of it is maybe 2 to 5 minutes away from being done for you, but I would still stay inside and away from windows. If you're around Pacific and Gray Summit, same thing. Couple more minutes. The strongest winds are sliding south of you. The leading edge of the strongest winds is that line. That prompted the yellow box, the severe thunderstorm warning. And then within it, we told you we can get these spin-ups. This is a pretty strong signature, though, as far as the tornado signature goes on radar. It's stronger than what we've seen earlier.
And you can start to see there's almost a little bit of a drop in the debris tracker. It's very difficult to pinpoint exactly, but...
Definitely keep an eye on that.
Yeah, I'm watching it closely. If you're in Cedar Hill, the sirens are likely going off, and you should already be down in the basement or in a closet or something.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look at this. Just in a matter of 2 minutes, it's on that south side of 30, northeast of Cedar Hill. Let me just back this up a little bit. Yep, southeast. I just wanted to get the trajectory. What I was watching is the movement of it. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't dropping south towards Cedar Hill. This is going to split Scottsdale and Cedar Hill and just crossing 30 in a matter of minutes and maybe right over it right now. So that's about 2 minutes. Let's get an idea downstream here. That's probably going to be 21 right there. That's in about 8 minutes. Yeah, that's 21. And then I'm going to back up a little bit more. So 8 minutes, it's going to be in central Jefferson County, north of Hillsboro, crossing Highway 21. And then, go ahead, Kent, you have some new information?
Well, this whole meso-complex thing is moving right over the metro right now. And a secondary priority that the Weather Service is talking about right now, their focus would be flash flood potential in the metro area. And we've been talking a lot about what's going on in the Nashville area and on the east side. But throughout the metro area, it's raining very hard. And obviously, this is the most immediate threat. But there's also going to be some flash flooding potential as this continues.
Great point. We don't want to lose sight of that. And please let me know if we get some new flash flood warnings we need to talk about. I'm going to focus on this, but I really appreciate that. I think the point, too, is that I know it's been raining all morning for many of us, but there's going to be flooding in areas that haven't flooded already. So areas where you thought, oh, it's okay, we got a lot of rain, but this road looks fine. Now, all of a sudden, that road might have water over it. Turn around. Just find a different route. That's just the safest, best thing to do. We're in a pretty serious situation when it comes to the rain because we've already had a lot, and there's more coming.
And they also canceled the warning for New Haven.
Good for New Haven, but southern Warren County, probably, or the south of that, they carved it out, and I think that one still continues. Nope, it doesn't. So the whole thing is gone. So if you're in Lyon, remember telling you Lyon, you got to monitor this? Gone. Tornado warning gone. The only warnings we have right now are the yellow box representing the severe thunderstorm warning. I'll put a big track on that damaging wind threat right there. There's St. Louis. There's Kirkwood. If you're in Chesterfield, this is south of you. Eureka, you're in the clear as far as the worst of this storm. You probably have some strong winds, but the strongest damaging winds are now south of you. Along the leading edge right here, we have a threat for a tornado, and I was timing that out 8 minutes into Highway 21 north of Hillsboro. I've got it 16 minutes around 55, right around Peevely. You can't see it, but that's Peevely right there. This is going to be south of Barnard.
Steve, check the debris signature.
And if you're in Festus, you want to monitor this closely. Thank you. Let's check the debris. Yeah, we've got a little isolated spot right there that probably is a tornado debris signature. I'm going to leave that to the Weather Service because I'm on the fly doing all this. They're going to monitor all these different levels of the radar and actually confirm it, but it does indeed look like a tornado debris signature there. In between Cedar Hill, Scottsdale, right on Highway 30. That's Highway 30 right there. And you have to match that up with the exact location of where the Doppler winds are showing the tornado.
Next.
And that does match up really well, right around 30. This is going to be north of Highway NN, north of Highway NN. I'm zooming in on some of these smaller roads. State Road BB and Cedar Hill Road is right where that tornado is. And keep in mind, these are estimates. If I'm looking at the radar image and I'm seeing it here, it may actually just be a little to the southeast, headed towards Hillsboro Springs Road. Okay, so we're zooming out a little bit here. And I'm also keeping an eye on a little weak area of rotation here along that line. This is definitely the strongest signature. And again, seeing in debris tracker some debris in the air. When we see that in debris tracker, it's the radar seeing not all the same sized raindrops. And so that means there's probably shingles in the air, leaves, tree branches, things like that that don't normally belong in the air. And if you match that up exactly with where the signature is for the rotation, that can be a clue that you've got. And in fact, it is now. It looks like, see how the red box for the tornado warning now is black? And that's because it probably just went to observed. So, yep, see how it says observed right there? Just remember, when it's observed, sometimes it's observed by people and spotters, but sometimes it's radar observed, which means there's so much information on radar that you can confirm it. They probably are going to mention that.
This one is saying radar observed, and it's moving very quickly. We should let people know they're not going to have much time to seek shelter. So even if they're not, even if they're downstream of that storm, they should already be in their safe place, because it's moving at 45 miles per hour, and that's very fast with these types of storms. So they're not going to have much time to seek shelter.
So folks in Cedar Hill, still be in your safe spot, even though this rotation is really on the east side of town in between Scottsdale and Cedar Hill. It's crossed Highway 30 now. That's the threat for the tornado, which debris tracker has confirmed. So we at least know that we've got a tornado that has touched down. Is it still on the ground? And will it be when it reaches, Highway 21 and eventually Peevely in about 15 minutes? We don't know, but we're here to track it for you as we continue to monitor this tornado warning in Jefferson County. The actual tornado warning has about 72,000 people in it. So there's 72,000 people that are hearing sirens, that are nervous and anxious, and we're here to explain, look, it's not this entire box. It's really just this area here that we see it on radar. We will monitor all along the leading edge of that, but we want folks to know exactly where that threat is and get the up-to-date information as it comes in. But tornado warning in between Cedar Hill and Scottsdale, crossed Highway 30. And Leah made a good point about how quickly this is moving. So with that said, let me get an idea of the speed, updated speed. Bellows Creek, this is right around 21 and Highway 21 in central Jefferson County. That's about 4 minutes. And then we get it to Jarvis in about 7 minutes. And around the Peevely area. And like I said, if you're in Festus, let's watch this closely, because it may be right around Peevely or maybe just north of Festus. But that's it right there. The tornado threat in about 13 minutes now. Let's zoom out, give you the big picture here. In fact, I'll switch over to the typical radar. I've been focusing on exactly where that rotation is. That's why I needed that red and green color, the Doppler winds, to help pinpoint that for you. This is what Kent was talking about. Big complex of heavy rain that can create more flooding across the area. But within this gigantic complex, the only area that's showing a threat for damaging winds and a tornado, it's all within this section of the storm. And see all that red, and see how it kind of curves? That curve is a bow echo. So that's telling us that there's strong winds, because it's pushing the raindrops farther out ahead in that section of the line right there. So right here, the winds are so strong, they're pushing the raindrops out and creating this little bow echo. And that's exactly where the National Weather Service has rightfully so issued this severe thunderstorm warning. Let's get a track on the severe thunderstorm warning. Then I'm going to get back to the specifics on that tornado warning. But if you're in Cedar Hill, it's just a couple more minutes, and it's going to be pretty well east of you. Just hunker down for maybe a couple more minutes. Same thing with Scottsdale. If you're in Hillsboro over to Festus, you're monitoring it closely. That track's going to come probably near to north of you. Peevely, definitely want to be in your safe spot. Like Leah said, you're not going to have a ton of time. I'm going to switch over to, in fact, I think Peevely, it was 13 minutes last time I tracked it. I'm going to switch over to those Doppler winds.
And Steve, there's about 4 areas of rotation. It looks very weak at this point, except for the one that moved through Cedar Hill. It's a little bit stronger, but there's roughly 4 areas of rotation that I'm tracking, or little notches that have potential to produce something.
Yeah. Okay. We'll pin those down in a second. This is the big one. That's the one with the tornado threat. But I've shown you a broad area of timing because there's still a threat for some real strong winds. It's much weaker now on the northern flank, by the way, but that would be coming to Arnold in about 8 minutes. It's also weaker, but still strong, maybe 50 to 60 miles an hour in Antonio in about 2 minutes. This is where some stronger winds are, and I wouldn't be surprised if maybe this gets expanded down into Washington County. That's Washington County, Missouri. But you see some of the cities like DeSoto, Maystown. That Maystown is if it continues all the way into Illinois.
Hey, Steve, real quick.
Yeah.
Just sidetrack a little bit. Highway 70 between 370 and T.R. Hughes Boulevard in St. Charles County is closed. That
Flooding?
from emergency management in that area. Highway 70 between 370 and T.R. Hughes. They're not saying a direction, so I have to assume that it'd be both directions, and they must have some flooding in that area. So Highway 70 closed between 370 and T.R. Hughes Boulevard. That's a pretty heavily traveled little part of the highway there. So I thought.
And look at the rainfall estimate by the radar, anywhere between 2 to 4 inches. In fact, there it is right now. There's the view of it on the.
Looks like it's only closed in one direction.
Yeah. I'm not sure which direction that is, but you're right. It is closed in one direction. And I know there's construction out there. I don't know if that plays a role with a low-lying spot, 2 to 4 inches of rain, a clogged drain. That may be the case. But either way, we know that the heavy rain and the flooding is causing more headaches.
And they do have flash flood warnings out for that area. St. Charles County, St. Louis County, I believe even part of Jefferson County is included within that. But those have been issued within the last couple minutes.
Good point. Okay, and that's going to be tapering off. The heaviest rain is where we see some of those oranges and reds, and that has now moved south where we have the severe thunderstorm warning here. So that area, while it's still raining, you're not getting the really heavy rain rates, meaning rainfall per hour or per half hour, that's going to cause any further issues. The one thing I want to watch is see this section right here. That's some pretty heavy rain. Is that going to drift right over that area in St. Charles County? If so, that would exacerbate the flood situation, but still raining out there. And of course, we know we've got major flooding from earlier today over in the Illinois side, from Nashville to Centralia. So a lot of folks are dealing with flooding. I just want to point out that more flooding could be coming. You look at Belleville. This is an area that's going to be under some really heavy rain rates for a while here. And of course, that's moved into Jefferson County also has the threat for the damaging winds
and Steve,
tornado.
while you're, sorry, apologies to interrupting. While you're on the flood threat out in Illinois, IDOT just sent us some information. They have closed I-64 between Oakville and Richview.
Okay.
Because of that flooding, and they've just gotten hammered by the rainfall over the last couple hours. So now they're having to close more portions of the highway. I know near Nashville, another portion of the highway was closed.
There's Nashville and there's 64, and of course there were reports of a dam failure in some areas that needed to evacuate as well. The rain is lighter. What we'll need to watch in that area is what's over Belleville, Fallon here. If that drifts over you, that could be real bad because it's this orangish, reddish color, even the yellows. That's the heavier rain rates that could exacerbate the flooding. Let's get back to the tornado warning. One of the things you'll notice is the black line is gone. So what that means is that while earlier the black line, it was radar confirmed, it was observed by the debris tracker, they're not seeing that anymore. I'm going to switch over to the debris tracker, and we're not, and that's good news. I'm going to go back in time here and see right there. It's small, but just northeast of Cedar Hill. So this is at 12:05. This is 10 minutes ago. That was the debris tracker picking up on a tornado debris signature. Now, as I go forward in time, notice how that spot just disappears. At the same time, there is still a threat for a tornado, and I would say it's probably right on Highway 21 near Bellows Creek, north of Hillsboro. So think Hillsboro and Jefferson College. It's actually north of you, north of State Road A, and south of Antonia. There's Antonio. Otto's around here too. There's other areas of, and Leah was mentioning this, there's other areas of rotation that we need to kind of monitor.
I'm watching about 2 now.
And none of them look real significant compared to what's here, just to the northeast of Hillsboro. If you're in Hillsboro, remember, you're not only in a tornado warning, you're also in a severe thunderstorm warning. So there's a potential here where maybe a tornado develops here to the northeast, and then Hillsboro gets hit by the straight line winds. In fact, I would say you are getting hit by the straight line winds. So just be inside, away from windows, down in your tornado shelter. Play it safe rather than sorry, even though in Hillsboro it looks like the rotation's just to the north and east of you. You'll notice the Powerhouse Silverado in the upper right there. That's our view from MoDOT at I-55 and Barnhart. We also have our camera from Barnes Jewish Siteman in South County. You might want to keep an eye on that too, but that's kind of on the weaker side of the winds because the northern flank of this severe thunderstorm warning, the winds have kind of weakened. This is the northern flank right here. Still see a little notch that I need to watch there west of Barnhart. This is what Lee and I were talking about. We're keeping an eye on some areas of weak rotation. The stronger rotation is right in this notch here. And that one, let's get an idea of where that's headed next, because we mentioned Peevely and Festus, and probably north of Festus. Let me go back in time here. Not as strong of a rotation signature, but it's there. It's right here. And to the southeast, we'll keep it at about 50 miles per hour. That gets it right around, Peevely to Festus in about 7 minutes. It's been a rough spring and summer for our friends in Festus. Huge hail, several threats of tornadoes, sometimes a weak tornado, and here we are. You're taking shelter again. I know that can wear you down, and I know you get fatigue from that. Do the right thing, head to the basement again, but do the right thing, because if this flares up in intensity, if this does produce damage, you want to be in that safe spot. This isn't going to happen like this every spring and summer. I know you have fatigue and you're tired of it, but hang in there. Let's go through this one more time, and hopefully that's it for the year. But just do the right thing. Buckle up is what I say. It's like when you get in a car. You don't know you're going to be in an accident, but you buckle up just to be safe. Well, we're buckling up in Festus and Peevely. We're getting down to our basement or our tornado safe shelter so that we're in the right spot, safe spot. Doesn't guarantee there's going to be a tornado, but we know that there's a threat, and it's going to be there in about 7 minutes. In the meantime, if you're in Hillsboro, you should be inside, away from windows, down in your safe shelter as well, although the rotation's really just on the northeast side of town. But see that bright pink? That's some strong straight line winds. That can take down a tree, especially in a single level house can come through the roof. Don't want to be in that wrong spot at the wrong time. So go ahead and stay in your tornado shelter. You are in the tornado warning. I do want to remind you, though, that this was a confirmed by radar tornado warning, and now it's not. So we don't have any confirmation of it actually being on the ground. What that means is there's a spin in the atmosphere above the ground. When that spin tightens up, it can pick stuff off the ground, and then it's a tornado. When that spin broadens and weakens, it's still spinning, but it's not strong enough to pick stuff up off the ground and do damage, so it's not a tornado. I hope that's exactly what we're dealing with right here. So we're noticing the spin up in the atmosphere. We don't know what's actually happening on the ground. It's why sometimes tornado warnings happen. You go to the basement and we don't have a tornado. Just being transparent and honest with you. But we know if this thing's spinning, and I'll tell you, if this thing's spinning over my house, I'm telling my kids to get to the basement, even if it doesn't produce a tornado. So let's hope it doesn't. 7 minutes, right around north of Festus, south of Peevely. Okay, let's get you an idea a little farther downstream, because I think Leah made a really good point here that it is moving pretty fast, 45, 50 miles an hour. And I just want to give folks a heads up downstream of that Festus and Peevely area, the timing for you. Okay, so Festus down to 6 minutes. Maystown as it gets into Illinois, 17 minutes. Fultz and then Kidd in 20 to 25 minutes. You see Prairie to Rocher, Redbud. It's a long ways out. We'll see if in a half hour it's holding its intensity through parts of Monroe and then Randolph County here. No telling if it just falls apart. Let's hope it does. But what it is doing, it's generating on a line of strong winds. So we need that line of strong winds to stop surging. And then we're going to lose that rotation intensity, which is right here. This is not one of those classic supercells where it's a little storm on its own and it's like its own little engine and it's going to spin for 20, 30, 40, 100 miles. This is a little different. This is the leading edge of some strong winds, which I'll highlight for you here in a second. And we need those winds to stop surging, and they're not yet. I can see it still right here, right in that bend. That's the bow echo right there. And that's still surging. And by surge, I mean just a section of this line that is faster than the northern and southern flank of that line. So as it surges right there, you're going to get that threat for some strong straight line winds. We have meteorologist Leah Hill, meteorologist Kent Earhart. We have a team tracking this for us, and they've done a good job of chiming in as soon as we get some new warnings. The good news is they haven't chimed in on new warnings in a while. We're really only dealing with now this section of the storm that has a threat for damaging winds.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Zoom out to the DMA view and just watch all of this focus come in right on top of us. It's just, I don't know that if you can go more than an hour.
Yeah, sure.
It's crazy. This is one of the most peculiar signatures I've seen on the, look at this.
We told you this yesterday in our forecast. We said, look, this is a tricky situation. We have outflow, that's cool air that comes out of thunderstorms that can act like a mini cold front. It's interacting with other outflow boundaries. At the same time, it's interacting with a cold front, which is probably right about here. So notice what's happened here. I think what Kent's kind of indicating is it looked like we were in a little bubble, and all of a sudden these storms in the Metro East back built. And then you got that surge. This storm probably initiated right off of the cold front. So the outflow, the cold front interacting right over us.
And look at the reduction in the intensity of the rain behind that surge, an indication that the wind's making it down to the surface there, and that's where you're getting the gusty winds.
Yep.
Well, one thing with that, I'm starting to get reports of there's a water rescue happening northbound 141 near Dutch Mill Road.
Okay.
So we've been watching the flood threats all morning, transition to the severe threat with the tornado and the severe thunderstorms, and I just want to let everybody know that the flood threat is still very much ongoing.
And it's but I think one of the upsides to this peculiarity is that it's finally beginning to move off. Now we're not seeing it training due west to east like it was this morning, and we'll start to see this thing continue to pick up speed and take some of the heavier rain out of here, but it's going to be a while before that happens.
These are all flash flood warnings.
Yeah.
So, it gives you an idea of just how widespread it was. I mean, this is just one of the warnings that I've clicked on. It's out in St. Charles County, goes into Lincoln and parts of Warren. You got 426,000 people. That doesn't even include the one in St. Louis County. So the flash flood threat is very real. There is parts of St. Charles, St. Clair, St. Louis County, St. Louis City, and Warren County, all in a flash flood warning that goes until 3 o'clock. It's almost 12:30 now. It goes until 3. Almost 1.7 million people. So there's a lot of people affected by flooded out roads. And we just hope that you're smart about this. You come across that flooded out road, just turn around, find a different route. It is not worth it. And remember that when we get this surge of storms that's coming through and we're tracking that severe threat, it has with it some really heavy rain. On even some of the areas that don't have a severe thunderstorm warning, I mentioned this a couple times already, but Waterloo to Belleville, this area, that is really heavy rain. And that can make for some really bad flash flooding because you've already got a flash flood warning. And now we're putting down really heavy rainfall rates on top of it. So especially in those areas where you get hit again and again and again, we need to be super careful for some significant flash flooding. In fact, let's zoom that back down, though, on the severe thunderstorm warning. It looks like the line is getting close to outrunning the actual severe thunderstorm warning. The stronger winds are in that southern flank. It's gone weaker, but also you see those little notches. We'll monitor those. Don't see anything real significant there other than the one that's headed towards around Festus. I think it may have sunk a little farther south. I'm going back in time, forward in time, just so I can get a real good idea. Oh, I see it. Real good idea where it is. It's weaker. If I have to work hard to find the area of rotation, that's usually a good thing. It means it's a weaker. It's not bright and standing out and jumps at you and you say, oh, yep, there it is. It's a good thing. So if you're in Festus and Peevely, that's a positive. The negative is it's still rotating, still can produce a tornado. You're still under a tornado warning. It's no longer confirmed by radar. We don't have the debris tracker showing anything in the air. Let me double check on that. No, we do not. But we do have rotation, and we hope that this is just rotating aloft and going to pass over right in between Peevely and Festus, right in there, right over Peevely and Festus in 55 in just a matter of minutes. Maystown, you would be next. I think last time we tracked this for you, it was about 16 minutes. Now it's down to about 11 as it moves to the southeast at about 45 to 50 miles per hour. So strong winds coming through Jefferson County here. even down in Richwoods, you're getting hit with some strong winds, even though you aren't in the warning. So I think just in this whole area where we see some of that bright red, just be inside, be away from windows. But as far as the northern flank, winds have weakened a little bit. And then as far as that rotation, weaker, but still there. The tornado warning has not been extended beyond where it is. It does actually go into Monroe County, so it goes past the river and into Monroe County, but it doesn't go into Maystown yet, even though I've timed it out in about 10 minutes your way. Just want to make sure you have the heads up. My hope is that this weakens further and that the Weather Service is allowed to say, hey, we're going to let this warning expire. And the other thing is the yellow box. See, that has not been extended farther south yet. I wouldn't be surprised if it does, especially the southern part of Jefferson County. If you're in DeSoto, inside, away from windows, I don't see a rotation or tornado threat over you. I just see a potential for some straight line winds. Zooming out with the big picture, and we'll switch back over to the first alert radar that you're used to seeing. And this is a lot of rain right here that is not under a severe thunderstorm warning, but that could create some more flooding, kind of like what you see here. This is near where, or maybe that is, the water rescue. It's 141 at Clayton Road.
And that's where the water rescue is.
And that's where the water rescue is happening. Okay. You see all that water in the side of the road too. It looks like the cars are getting by okay in that one lane, but it looks like maybe the water kind of inundated the culvert there, and on the right-hand side, you certainly see some emergency. The thing I noticed too about this, the water's not moving swiftly in this case. It may very well be that it's just a flooded out culvert. The water's not moving very rapidly. That's a better situation than when a creek has come out of its banks, overtaken a road, and it's moving swiftly. Boy, those are super dangerous situations. So the speed of the water does matter. Hopefully this is just kind of still water that's filled up a culvert, so someone unfortunately has ended up in it. And
Dave, you've got some flash flooding on the east, on the east side, Route 158 between Roachtown Road and Red Barn in Millstadt is closed. And then there's flash flooding on Highway 70 eastbound. The ramps in O'Fallon at Jungerman and Country Creek and Salt Lick at Timberbrook are all closed. And then we've got flash flooding with a water rescue in Washington, Missouri.
In Washington, Missouri, okay. That's the first we've heard out there. There's Washington. There's Washington, and that yellow is the 2 to 3 inches. I just want to show you some of the rainfall that the radar's estimating so far. I mean, anything in the red is 4 to 6, and there's spots of 6 to 8. And you see a lot of that here in St. Clair down to Monroe, and that's that area I'm pointing out that's not under a severe thunderstorm warning, but you are under flash flood warning, and there's some heavy rain happening right there. And of course, there's flash flooding happening even on 141 in parts of West St. Louis County, where we have what looks like the lighter rainfall totals, 1 to 3 inches, but because that surge of storms just came through, it put down a lot of rain in a short amount of time, and it probably created some short-term flash flooding, even though the rainfall totals don't look as impressive as some other areas like what we see over around Belleville and O'Fallon. One of the things we can do too is just kind of see what this rainfall estimate is. Almost 7 inches of rain.
And it looks like 170 near Forest Park Parkway is also experiencing standing water on the roadway. I just sent a blast message to my whole family just telling them to stay home and don't even bother driving in this. And I think it's getting to that point.
It's just so area wide now that if you don't have to travel in the sound of our voice, really, if you can hold off, because there's just widespread flooding across the area.
Yeah, why bother? On my way into work, I took 270, and I didn't find flooded out roads, but it was the hydroplaning. And then there's people, usually trucks, going really fast past you, and it's white knuckle, 2 hands on the wheel, especially if you feel that hydroplaning. So even where there may not be flash flooding, it's not ideal driving conditions. If you don't have to, probably best not to. That's rainfall estimated, rainfall, 24-hour rainfall estimate from the radar. You see all around Nashville, Washington County. We pointed out St. Clair County. Here's some up around near Alton and to the north, up into Jersey County. There's a spot just around southern Warren County, probably some of that flooding down into Washington where we heard of some flood issues. So it's pretty widespread across the area, but there are pockets that are in this, 6 to 8, this really intense area of heavy rain and flooding. I love that you guys are chiming in with anything new on the flood. I really appreciate that. Let's check in on the severe thunderstorm warning. It looks like they've allowed that to expire, and the tornado warning. So let's, before we, we're at 12:31 right now, and you guys let me know if we're going to head back to programming and or continue, especially with the heavy rain and the flood threat here. But before we do anything, I want to make sure our friends who are hunkered down in Peevely and Festus and Maystown know what's going on. So let's get another analysis of the storm that's coming your way. Weaker, just looking at that, I can tell weaker straight line winds. Let's switch over to the Doppler winds, and we're going to loop this to get a closer look. There we go. There's that surge. Okay, watch this. Watch right there and see how it dips down and just hit Festus. So you did get hit by some strong straight line winds. There's another pocket of a little downburst too. Stay inside, away from windows, but you're probably in your tornado shelter, and that rotation is so much weaker, and that's why they've let that tornado warning go. I mean, it's not going to produce a tornado with that type of signature. So I'll monitor this leading edge right here to see if anything starts to spin up, but you'll see that brighter pink just kind of slip. It was going south, and then notice how it kind of curved a little bit. It hit especially the south side of Festus. So some strong straight line winds with that. Not a little downburst here, and you have strong straight line winds around DeSoto. I don't see any rotation in DeSoto, just inside, away from windows as that moves through. Definitely a little weaker signature on the radar here. We'll monitor, I think if there's anything severe that we need to monitor, it's going to be this complex right here. That's it. So this could get into Washington County, where there's been so much bad flooding. This is south of Belleville, towards Mascoutah, southern St. Clair County, Monroe County, Randolph County, and then into Clinton County, probably south of Clinton County, more of a Washington County issue. So as far as any future warnings go, I think that's where we'll see along the leading edge right there. And what we would need to look for is one of those surges like what we saw come right through St. Louis into Eureka and then down into Jefferson County. So we'll monitor that closely to see if we can get any new warnings. But at this point, no severe thunderstorm warnings, no tornado warnings. We do have plenty of flash flood warnings. As I zoom out a little bit, you'll see those here. And I mean, there's over 1 million, there's probably over 2 million people that are dealing with flash flooding right now. And we're hearing of water rescues. We're hearing of major roads, interstates being shut down. This is Interstate 70 near Mid Rivers Mall that is closed. So you'll see like that truck with the blue cab and then the white truck behind it. It's getting off, right? So it's getting off because it's being diverted.
Okay.
So it's literally closed right there, and it's just one direction. I don't know which direction it is, but on 70 near Mid Rivers Mall. So we have the flooding is a major issue. We continue to monitor for anything severe and, of course, an isolated brief tornado. It's not an environment that's really conducive to tornadoes. It was a very low threat to begin with. The reason this happened is because we had kind of a weird situation, unique, where we had two areas of storms collide, and that collision, or what we call convergence, helped develop or create its own spin in the atmosphere. So going into today, we didn't really have those conditions, and then those two storms hit, collided, and created those conditions. So we'll monitor this line, which now much weaker, but still producing heavy rain, and likely some 40 to 50 mile an hour gusts as it sags south through St. Clair County, Monroe County, eventually into Randolph County.
And Steve,
Please.
Probably everyone's phones just went off recently for a flash flood warning, an alert just sent off to the phone. So the flooding is damaging enough and considerable enough that they are sending out those alerts to smartphones around the area.
Which one is that? Is that like an upgrade on a current flash flood warning?
Yes, I believe this is for when it's tagged considerable. So the threat's imminent or it's happening right now. Or,
Can you tell me which area, what counties?
It just came in. I just got the alert on my phone. So that'd be St. Louis County. I guess
Okay.
the city limits as well.
You know what? I'll bet it's both. I'll query. Thank you for that. So, just like we have tornado warnings that are your base tornado warning, and then there's confirmed either by radar or people. And then there's considerable, where it's on the ground and it's likely doing considerable damage. There's even more from there, tornado emergency. So there's all these different levels. Well, there's different levels for the flash flood warning as well. And we've just reached a more significant, a really life-threatening, dangerous situation on some of these flash flood warnings. So this one, the threat tag, so threat is considerable. So it's not your base flash flood warning, which I hope you heed anyway and pay attention to. But now in St. Charles County, 426,000 people in that. And then this is the one that I think is the brand new one that Leah was saying. When you get to this threat tag considerable, it goes to people's phones, kind of like Amber Alerts and tornado warnings go to your phone. And that's a good thing, because we want to make sure you're alert, whether you get it from us or not. We want you alert. We want you knowing what's going on. We want you prepared, and we want you safe. And so the threat here that just went off on your phone for a lot of people, boy, almost 1.7 million, is the flash flood threat that has ramped up. They're saying 1 to 3 inches in that warned area. We know there's some spots that are 2 to 4. We're talking about the St. Louis, St. Charles, St. Louis City, County, Warren County area specifically. There's other areas that are 6 to 8 inches. And I do think, especially in the Metro East, and I'm going to switch over to the radar to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. I do think this specific area of rain from Waterloo to around Mascoutah, south side of Belleville, Columbia, Illinois, I mean, that can trigger flash flooding worse than what you've been seeing throughout the day, and it can happen really quickly. Where you see a lot of the greens, that steady light rain, that's not going to exacerbate the flooding too much more. It may keep some levels high. It may keep some low-lying areas and poor drainage areas filled with water. But the ones where there was no flooding, now there is. It's because of things like this big area of rain that's coming through Waterloo, Mascoutah, and southern part of St. Clair County. So the flash flood is the only warnings we have right now, which is the good news. And if you look at the loop, you can really kind of tell there's not as much red, and it does look like it's weakening. I think we're kind of in the beginning stages of getting to the point where maybe we can get away from any severe threat out of this storm, specifically this, and get to just, we're dealing with some steady light to moderate rain that, again, wouldn't exacerbate flooding more, but would keep the flooding high and keep poor drainage areas that are filled up with water filled up and keep that going. But it's really these heavy rainfall rates here that create the biggest problems. And boy, it's been creating a lot of problems on the roadways. Paige is in and taking a look at traffic, and I got to imagine there's a lot of icons for accidents and incidents. Yes. and a lot of closed roads out there. What's the latest, Paige?
Steve, there is not a St. Louis area interstate that is not impacted by this weather. We have crashes, we have water on the roadways, we have slowdowns on every major St. Louis area interstate, as you can see indicated here through these icons, whether there's a crash on 70 just north of downtown at Branch, 44 at Arsenal. You also see at the intersection of 64 and 270 there. I also just got a notification about a crash in South City on Interstate 55 at Loughborough. That is in addition to all the places where there are slowdowns because of the rain coming down and slowdowns because of water on the roadway. Specifically, I want to take a couple closer looks here. Interstate 70 at 79, basically a parking lot, as you see traffic backed up because of that earlier crash there on Interstate 70. Also quite concerned about this area of 141. This has been ebbing and flowing. We've seen water build up on this stretch of 141 at Clayworth, and we've also seen it recede and build up again. And you can tell that by how much water those cars are driving through. This is better than it looked just a few moments ago. But I've also seen a notification just in the last 2 minutes of a new crash at 141 and 44 for just a couple miles from this area. So if you are getting ready to head out, if you have a loved one who is out maybe on their lunch break driving right now, you have to drive for these conditions because they are changing fast, with water both building up on the roadways as drains get clogged and as you monitor rain moving throughout the area. So again, there is not a St. Louis area interstate and many side roads as well that is not impacted right now by this severe weather. Steve.
Thank you, Paige. Paige Holsey with traffic. We've got meteorologist Leah Hill, meteorologist Kent Earhart, and myself, all as a team working this together to bring you the latest information. And Paige, if you get something new that's really important, please let us know. We're here to let us know what's going on with that more immediate situations where big roads are closing, main roads. And like I said, we've got over 2 million people that are in flash flood warnings right now. I do see further weakening on this line. I still think there's a threat in the very near short term here for renewed flash flooding. I say renewed because you already have flash flooding, but in parts of Monroe and St. Clair County. But that is weakening. You're seeing less and less of the red. You're seeing the convective, using meteorology speak. You're seeing the storm threat weaken. So the threat for any severe weather is really ratcheting down on that segment of the line. Remember, that was the only area I was concerned with going forward. Everything else that you see out there is more light to moderate showers and not dealing with anything in the way of severe weather. There are no severe thunderstorm warnings. The only area to really kind of monitor is that, and that's weakening. So I think that's kind of in the behind us. Let's get a big picture look here. This look, it's just us. We're just smothered as I zoom out. We're smothered by all this rain, but you don't see anything farther off to the west. I'm going to turn on these wind particles. It's driven by. Can you go to max 1 for me, guys? I think you're on max 2. Yeah, thank you. Just give me 1 second. We've got multiple weather machines, and the guys in the back are doing a great job of punching up what they can, get you cameras, getting Paige and traffic. There's a lot going on here. It's all on the fly. There's no practice going into this, okay? So hang in there with them and with us. And Tyler, you're doing a great job. What I've turned on is the wind particles, and what I wanted to show you is that it's a little tough to pinpoint because the atmosphere is turbulent and all stirred up, but there's a cold front out there kind of across our area, and I would pinpoint it basically right about here. That merged with outflow from our morning storms, and what has created this area of storms that lingers now 1243 into the afternoon. This front's going to come into St. Louis and stall out. There is a potential for some more rain later on tonight into tomorrow morning. The latest models pinpoint it kind of St. Louis to the south, and because of all this rain keeping things cooler, knocking back the heat, it may be that the front's going to kind of jump ahead and then settle south of us. So I do think it's a better chance for some of the heavier rain south tonight into tomorrow morning, but there's still a chance for some renewed storm activity, especially from about I-70 south, and we're going to have to monitor that because if any areas have been hit so hard already get hit again, then we're going to have some trouble. The better bet, I think, is because of this complex hitting us, that might shunt the threat for storms a little farther south. Essentially what it does is this just cools the atmosphere so much